There comes a point in life when you get tired of being pulled in every direction, tired of second-guessing yourself, tired of shrinking your truth just to keep others comfortable. You start to notice how easily the world influences people. A glance, a comment, a silence, and suddenly they're no longer themselves. They say yes when they mean no. They stay quiet when their heart screams. They become who others expect, instead of who they truly are. But what if you could live differently? What if you could become untouchable? Not in arrogance, but in clarity? That's the Stoic way. Not to escape the world, but to stand rooted in it. Not to control others, but to master yourself. These are not rules, not tricks, not tactics to gain control. These are inner principles, quiet truths that build a solid mind, a still heart, and a life that no longer bends under pressure. If you're ready to stop living on everyone else's terms, these 10 principles are where you begin. 1. Know who you are, or others will decide for you. If you don't know who you are, someone else will tell you. They'll label you, they'll shape your opinions, they'll define your worth, and you might believe them, not because they're right, but because you haven't taken the time to define yourself. The truth is simple, yet uncomfortable. If you don't claim your identity, the world will assign you one, and most of the time, that identity will serve them, not you. The Stoics believed that knowing yourself was the beginning of freedom, of peace, of power, because when you are clear about who you are, you become harder to manipulate, harder to offend, harder to sway with every changing wind. You stop living reactively. You begin living intentionally. But knowing yourself requires effort. It's not found in your job title, or your social roles, or your followers. It's deeper than that. Who are you when no one's watching? What do you stand for? When standing has a cost? What do you believe when the crowd pushes you to conform? Most people don't take the time to ask these questions. They spend their lives performing, adapting, changing their opinions depending on who's in the room. And the more they adjust, the more they forget who they were in the first place. But the Stoic path demands self-inquiry, silence, reflection, not to isolate you, but to root you, because if you are not rooted, you are easily moved. By pressure, by fear of being misunderstood. The goal isn't to become rigid, it's to become centered, so that when someone questions you, you don't panic. When someone disapproves, you don't crumble. When someone tries to define you, you already know the answer. You can listen without absorbing. You can disagree without disrespect. You can stay still while others chase validation. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." What he meant is this: your strength does not come from being told who you are. It comes from discovering it yourself, from digging deep, from returning to your values again and again until they are unshakable. This doesn't mean you never grow. It means you grow with intention, not with the trends, not with pressure, but with wisdom. And here's the beauty of it. Once you truly know yourself, you no longer chase approval. You no longer shapeshift for attention. You no longer ask, "Am I enough?" Because you've already answered that question, quietly and with certainty. Reflection. The world is loud. It will tell you who to be, what to think, how to live. But you don't have to follow. You don't have to bend. If you know who you are, you become immune to the noise. So spend time in stillness. Get honest with yourself. Write your values down. And more importantly, live them. Because when you are anchored in identity, you become calm in conflict, clear under pressure, and untouchable by shallow opinion. And that is the foundation of real strength, the kind that doesn't shout, but cannot be shaken. 2. Stop needing everyone to agree with you. You don't need everyone to agree with you. and you never will. Even if you speak with perfect logic, even if your heart is in the right place, even if you mean no harm, there will always be someone who sees it differently. And that's okay. Agreement is not a requirement for peace. Approval is not the source of your worth. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't seek alignment with the crowd. They sought alignment with their values. Because chasing agreement leads to exhaustion. You begin to shape your words for comfort. You filter your thoughts for applause. And slowly, you lose your center. You start asking, what will they think? Instead of asking, is this right? You become afraid to speak your truth. Afraid to stand alone. Afraid to be misunderstood. But the truth is, being misunderstood is part of living with clarity. Not everyone can see your intent. Not everyone will care about truth. Some just want comfort. Some just want control. And if you need their agreement to feel okay, you've handed them your peace. The Stoic doesn't do that. He stands with grace. He speaks with precision. And when others disagree, he listens. But he doesn't collapse. You are allowed to hold firm. Without becoming hostile, you are allowed to be confident. Without becoming arrogant, agreement is nice, but it's not necessary. Because what matters is not whether people agree. What matters is whether you are living in integrity, whether you're being honest, whether you're being fair. Even Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, was misunderstood. Even Epictetus, once a slave, was criticized. Even Socrates was sentenced to death for speaking the truth. So, who are we to believe that agreement is always a sign of success? Sometimes, disagreement is a sign that you're finally becoming yourself. You don't need to force others to think like you. You don't need to change minds that don't want to be changed. You just need to be clear and let others be where they are. If you're wrong, learn. If you're right, keep going. But don't shrink just to be liked. Don't dilute your truth just to keep the room calm. You were not made to please everyone. You were made to live with purpose. Reflection. The moment you stop needing agreement, you free yourself. You free your voice. You free your time. You free your mind from the trap of trying to be understood by all. Respect doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being honest, from standing for something. So speak with care, but also with courage. Listen with humility, but don't abandon yourself in the process. Because the people who truly matter won't need you to bend in order to see your value. And the people who need you to shrink are not your tribe. Let them disagree. Let them judge. Let them walk away. You're not here for their permission. You're here for your purpose. And once you embrace that, you become untouchable, not by force, but by clarity. 3. Practice emotional detachment, not indifference. There's a quiet power in being close, but not controlled. In being present, but not pulled in. That's what emotional detachment means. Not coldness, not apathy, but clarity. Too many people confuse detachment with indifference. They think that to be strong, they must stop feeling. They shut down. They become numb. They pretend nothing touches them. But that's not stoic. That's avoidance. The Stoic doesn't suppress his feelings. He studies them. He feels them fully. Then he chooses not to let them rule him. Emotional detachment is the ability to care deeply without being consumed. It means you can love someone, but still walk away if your peace is on the line. You can be invested in something, but not let its outcome define your identity. You can be disappointed, but not destroyed. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Because most people live at the mercy of their emotions. They rise and fall with every mood. They overreact. They spiral. They get pulled into drama they didn't create. The Stoic chooses differently. He creates space between feeling and reaction. He builds a gap, a pause, and in that pause is freedom. You can't control what you feel, but you can control what you do with what you feel. That's the key. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The world will test you, People will trigger you. Life will push you. But when you're emotionally grounded, you don't react just to react. You observe. You breathe. You respond from your values, not from your wounds. Detachment is also how you protect your peace, not by disconnecting from others, but by staying connected to yourself. You don't absorb every emotion in the room. You don't carry what's not yours to carry. You stay soft, but you stay centered. Even when others lose control, you stay intact. Even when the storm rises, you remain steady. That's not cold. That's calm. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely, without drowning, without clinging, without losing yourself. Reflection. There's a fine line between being strong and being shut off. One protects your inner life, the other abandons it. So don't become indifferent. Feel everything. Love deeply, grieve honestly, care sincerely, but also hold it all lightly. Don't grip, don't chase, don't force. Let life move through you, but don't let it move you out of yourself. That balance, that centered presence, is what makes you powerful. You become immune to emotional chaos, not because you don't feel, but because you've learned how to hold what you feel without letting it hold you. That is the essence of true Stoic strength. 4. Let silence be your default response. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every provocation needs a reaction. Not every opinion should pull you in. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. In a world obsessed with speaking, with defending, correcting, proving, silence has become a rare and powerful act. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're in control. The Stoics understood this well. They knew the mind must be disciplined, that words are not neutral. Every word has weight, and once spoken, it cannot be pulled back. Silence, on the other hand, gives you space, room to think, room to feel, room to choose your next move with intention. When someone insults you, pause. Let silence do what anger cannot. Let stillness show your strength. When someone tries to draw you into drama, into gossip, into emotional chaos, stay quiet. Let them reveal themselves. You don't need to follow them into their storm. Silence does not mean submission. It means discipline. It means you're no longer living to defend every thought, every feeling, every part of your identity. When you're clear within yourself, you don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't owe strangers an answer. You don't owe critics your peace. Epictetus once said, "If someone speaks badly of you, and it is true, correct yourself. If it is false, laugh." That's the essence of inner confidence. You listen, you evaluate, but you don't get pulled into noise, because silence does something extraordinary. It creates presence. Il demande attention. It makes others lean in. While you remain grounded, people often speak to be heard, to win, to feel significant. But the Stoic seeks something else. Not to be heard, but to be whole. Not to win the argument, but to win over the self. Silence gives you back your time. It gives you back your energy. It gives you control over what leaves your mouth and what doesn't. You don't need to respond to every message. You don't need to attend every battle. Sometimes, the greatest reply is none at all. Not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You've learned to listen, to observe, to breathe, and to wait until your words carry weight, not just emotion. Reflection. Let silence be your first language. Let it be your armor. Let it be your strength. Because in silence, you learn. You hear more. You notice more. You feel what's real and what's just noise. And the less you say, the more meaning your words carry when you finally do speak. So don't fear silence. Embrace it. Let it guide you. Let it protect you. Because in a world full of noise, the quietest one in the room often holds the most power. That is the mark of someone who is no longer influenced by the world, but led from within. 5. Set boundaries without explaining them. You don't need to justify your peace. You don't need permission to protect your energy. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors you control, not to shut everyone out, but to choose what enters. The Stoic understands this. He knows that time, energy, and attention are finite, and what you allow in shapes who you become. But many people struggle to set boundaries. Why? Because they feel guilty. They feel they owe others an explanation. They fear looking cold. They fear disappointing people. So they say yes when they mean no. They overextend. They agree to things that drain them. And then they wonder why they feel resentful. But here's the truth. You can't be everything for everyone. You can't say yes to others without sometimes saying no to yourself. That's not selfish. That's clarity. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting what matters most. Your peace, your focus, your mental health, your time. You don't owe everyone access. You don't owe everyone a seat at your table. You don't need to explain why you didn't reply, why you declined, why you chose yourself this time. The Stoic sets boundaries not out of anger, but out of wisdom. He doesn't make a scene. He doesn't over-explain. He simply acts with quiet conviction. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, be intentional about your connections. Not everyone is meant to stay. Not every invitation deserves your presence. You're not being rude. You're being responsible. When someone questions your boundary, you don't need to fight. You don't need to convince. You simply hold your ground. With calm, with kindness, with firmness, because a boundary is not a debate. It's a decision. And once you've made it, let it be. Yes, some will be uncomfortable. Some will call you cold. Some will try to guilt you. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their misunderstanding is not your burden. You are not cold for protecting your energy. You are not cruel for choosing peace. You are not arrogant for valuing your time. You are wise. And slowly, people will learn to treat you with the same respect you show yourself. Reflection. You teach others how to treat you, not through your words, but through your boundaries. So stop over-explaining. Stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. Let your actions speak. Say yes when it's true. Say no when it's needed. And leave the rest in silence. Because when your boundaries are clear, your life becomes clear. And when your life becomes clear, you become unshakable. You no longer move from guilt. You move from principle. You no longer bend from pressure. You stand from peace. And that is the power of quiet strength. 6. Don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion holds value. Not every critic sees clearly. In a world where everyone has something to say, learn to listen selectively, because the more you grow, the louder the noise becomes. And if you try to respond to all of it, you'll lose yourself in the process. The Stoic understands. Criticism is inevitable. But not all criticism is equal. There are people who offer feedback from wisdom, from clarity, from care. And there are people who criticize out of projection, jealousy, insecurity, or boredom. Your job is not to react to everyone. Your job is to discern. Ask yourself, would I take life advice from this person? Would I trade places with them? Do they live by the values I respect? If the answer is no, why would their criticism carry weight? You don't let someone who's never walked your path tell you how to walk it. You don't let someone who's never built anything tell you how to build. You don't let someone who doesn't know your heart judge your intention. Because some people criticize not to help, but to feel important. Not to offer insight, but to feel superior. Let them speak. Let them think what they want. And keep walking. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. You know your effort. You know your process. You know your reasons. So stop handing your peace to people who haven't earned a voice in your inner circle. The Stoic doesn't shut out all feedback. He just filters it. He welcomes truth, even when it's hard. But he ignores noise, especially when it's shallow. Criticism can be a gift if it comes from the right place, from someone who sees you, who wants you to grow, who speaks from experience, not from ego. But most of the criticism you receive in life won't come from those people. It will come from the sidelines, from those who aren't doing the work, from those who comment more than they create. Let them talk and keep building, because your work speaks louder than their opinions. Your discipline outlasts their judgment. Your path doesn't require their applause or their permission. Reflection. You don't need to fight every critic. You don't need to defend every step. Save your energy. Protect your focus. Filter the voices that enter your mind. And most of all, remember this. If you wouldn't trust their guidance, don't carry their judgment. Listen for wisdom, not noise. And as you grow stronger, quieter, more anchored, you'll find that most criticism loses its power, not because it stops, but because it no longer matters. That is the essence of freedom. That is the mark of a mind that is truly your own. 7. Stand for principles, not popularity. You can't chase truth and applause at the same time. Eventually, one will require you to let go of the other. Popularity is based on perception. It changes with the wind. One day, they cheer you. The next day, they question you. But principles, they do not bend. They hold steady when the crowd shifts. They guide you when the room turns silent. They anchor you when approval disappears. The Stoics never aim to be liked. They aim to live rightly, to act with virtue, to speak with honesty, even when it costs them something. Especially then, in today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of adjusting yourself to be more acceptable, more likable, more right in the eyes of the majority. But what good is being accepted if you've abandoned what you know is true? Standing for principles doesn't always feel good. It can feel lonely. It can bring discomfort. It can make you a target. But it also makes you real. It makes you trustworthy. It gives your presence a weight, a stillness that people can feel, even if they don't agree with you. The Stoic is not interested in blending in. He is interested in being whole. He doesn't speak to be loved. He speaks because it's just, because it's necessary, because it honors his inner compass. Senetzarot, let the man who says he is honest be so without a badge or label. True integrity is quiet. It doesn't seek applause. It simply exists, steadily. When you live by principle, you can walk into any room with calm, because you're not performing. You're not watching reactions. You're not adjusting for comfort. You're simply living what you believe. And here's the paradox. The more you stop trying to please people, the more they begin to respect you. Not all of them, but the right ones. Because real ones can sense real values. They can feel when someone is rooted. They may disagree with you, but they won't doubt where you stand. That's power. Not the loud kind. Not the viral kind. But the enduring kind. The kind that survives the noise. The kind that survives criticism. The kind that survives time. Reflection. Popularity fades. Principes endurent. When you chase popularity, you become someone else's reflection. You become a mirror for their approval, not a window to your soul. But when you live by principle, you become solid, clear, respectably. So stand quietly, stand firmly. Let others shift. Let them cheer or walk away. You're not here to be everyone's favorite. You're here to be real, to live with honor, to leave a legacy that outlives applause. And that is what makes you truly immune to outside influence, because your direction no longer depends on the crowd. It depends on your core. 8. Train your mind to pause before you react. There is a brief space between what happens to you and how you respond. In that space lies your power, your freedom, your strength. But most people miss it. They react instantly, driven by emotion, by habit. Biegul, someone offends them. They lash out. Someone disrespects them. They fight back. Someone disagrees. They shut down or explode. And in that moment, they lose themselves. The Stoic doesn't react like this. He trains himself to pause, to breathe, to observe what rises within without becoming it. That pause is not weakness. It's mastery, because anyone can react. Only the wise can respond. You don't control everything that happens to you, but you always control what happens next. And what happens next depends on the strength of your mind. That's why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's not about being passive. It's about being precise, responding with intention, not instinct. The pause gives you time to feel the emotion without letting it lead, to recognize the trigger without pulling it. You can still feel anger, but choose not to shout. You can still feel hurt, but choose not to attack. You can still feel fear, but choose not to retreat. That's power, not loud, not flashy, but deep, stable, and quiet. And it's trained, not born. It takes practice, awareness, repetition. Each time you catch yourself before reacting, you gain strength. Each time you choose calm over chaos, you build discipline. Each time you pause, you grow. The mind is like a sword, useless if not sharpened, dangerous if not controlled. Your thoughts are fast, but your wisdom needs space. That space is your pause. That's where your higher self speaks. Reflection. Train yourself to wait, to step back, to see clearly before moving. Let your pause be your protection. Let your pause be your power. You don't have to react to everything. You don't have to match chaos with chaos. You can stay still. You can stay grounded. You can choose the response that aligns with your values, not your impulses. That choice is what makes you untouchable, not by running from the world, but by no longer being owned by it. And that is the strength of a trained, stoic mind. 9. Trust the long game over short-term approval. Most people want to feel good now, to be seen, to be praised, to be accepted, so they chase the applause, the likes, the quick wins, the temporary comfort of being approved by others. But here's the truth. What is popular now is often forgotten tomorrow, and what truly matters is rarely seen right away. The Stoic doesn't play the short game. He's not here to impress. He's not here to be admired for a moment. He's here to build something that lasts, and that means saying no to shortcuts, to shallow praise, to the temptation of being liked at the cost of being real. Because approval is addictive. The more you taste it, the more you need it. And slowly, you lose yourself. You start performing, shaping your choices, not by principle, but by popularity. The Stoic sees through this. He chooses substance over speed, depth over noise, consistency over performance. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, if you're committed to real growth, you must be willing to look wrong in the short term, because mastery doesn't happen in public. It happens in private. It happens in repetition, in unseen hours, in decisions no one claps for. People may mock you now. They may misunderstand you. They may question your path. Let them. You're not here for quick applause. You're here for a quiet life, built on discipline, on patience, on purpose. The long game means you're willing to delay gratification, to be unknown, to be overlooked, to be doubted, while you keep building, because deep down, You're not chasing attention. You're chasing alignment. And when others burn out, you remain. When trends pass, your work stays. When applause fades, you're still standing because you weren't performing to begin with. Reflection. Choose the long game, even when it's slower, even when no one notices, even when it feels lonely. Because what's built slowly tends to last. What's grown quietly tends to grow strong. You don't need to be visible to be valuable. You don't need to be praised to be purposeful. Let others chase the spotlight. Let others perform for approval. You stay rooted, stay real, stay steady, because the reward for living with intention isn't applause, it's peace. And that is worth more than any amount of short-term attention. 10. Build inner stillness so outer noise can't shake you. The world is loud, always moving, always shouting, always demanding something from you. And if you're not careful, it will pull you in. You'll start running without knowing where. You'll start reacting without knowing why. You'll start living without ever feeling truly alive. But the Stoic doesn't live like that. He doesn't seek to escape the noise. He seeks to become still within it. Because the real battle is not around you. It's inside you. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the presence of clarity. It's when your mind is quiet, even when the world is loud. When you can hear yourself, even when everyone else is speaking. When you don't just react to life, you respond with awareness. Stillness gives you space. It gives you strength. It gives you sight. You begin to see what truly matters. You stop chasing every opinion. You stop fearing every change. You stop rushing to keep up. You learn to sit, to breathe, to observe. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but his greatest achievement was ruling his own mind. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That's the power of stillness. It's not laziness. It's not inaction. It's presence. It's control. You move, but not in panic. You speak, but not to fill silence. You act, but not to impress. You are calm because you know yourself. Stillness protects you from noise, from distractions, from opinions that aren't rooted in truth, from emotions that rise fast but fade quickly. It keeps you centered when the world pulls in every direction, and it's not something you're born with, it's something you build. Each time you choose to pause instead of react, each time you sit in discomfort instead of escape, each time you listen deeply instead of rushing to reply, that's how you cultivate stillness, not in one day, but in every decision. Reflection. Build your life on a still foundation, not because the world will ever be quiet, but because you can be. Let the noise come. Let the chaos rise. Let the world do what it does. And you, stay still, stay grounded, stay present, because once you master your inner world, the outer world can no longer control you. That is the quiet immunity of the Stoic. You don't have to fight for your place in this world. You just have to stop giving it away. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You don't need applause. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to return, again and again, to your values. Let them guide you. When things get loud, let them hold you. When people push, let them ground you. When emotions rise, the Stoic doesn't seek control of others. He seeks sovereignty over himself. That's what makes him immune. Because once your inner world is clear, the outer world loses its power to shake you. That's not detachment. That's freedom.